I see Lewis and Ginger and the McBees and Karen and Sandy and Reese and a whole bunch of you coming on. Hi, Richard. Happy Easter. It's Monday. It's Easter Monday. Hi, Nathan. We'll give everybody a few more minutes to get started here. Yes, as a matter of fact, I am sitting on the floor on my meditation cushion because I couldn't find the right setup so that you guys can see this beautiful work of art, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute. Our morning has been a little hectic with trying to get homeschooling underway for the week. You think that you can just snap your fingers and 3 kids will sit down at the table and get started right away, and unfortunately, it's not quite that easy. But all is quiet now and everybody is working, so we are counting our blessings. Hi Shelby, hi Jane. Okay, so what I want to share with you a little bit this morning is a little bit about this work of art by Matisse, and it is a piece from his later collection in life called The Cutouts. It was actually a display at the Museum of Modern Art a couple of years ago in New York City, which is where I had the opportunity to see this piece and several others, and where I purchased this poster of this piece. And rather than sitting here and rambling and talking through what I find meaningful about this, I actually wrote a little bit, and so if you'll humor me, I want to read this to you. Vicki, have you seen this piece at MoMA? Isn't it weird to think about that we could have been there at the same time before we knew each other? It was a beautiful, beautiful display. Okay, so the reason that I want to talk about this piece of work, which is called The Sheaf, on Easter Monday, is because I think Matisse offers us a contemporary resurrection. He was 70 years old in 1941, and at that same time in his life, his wife was filing for divorce, which ended up being quite a messy divorce. Matisse lived in German-occupied France, and it was World War II. And the doctors found cancer in his body. And on account of the cancer, Matisse was confined to a wheelchair and could no longer paint due to a loss of dexterity in his hands. And he was, before he did the cutouts, he was a magnificent painter, and I'm sure and I hope that you are familiar with his work. And so this artist, when he lost his ability and in his interaction with oils and canvases and brushes, which was his life, and when his marriage started falling apart, and when he was living in a war-torn country, everything that he knew was being held captive. And yet I don't think we need to go all the way back to 1941 France to study an eccentric artist to hear stories like this, right? I think so many of us who are listening right now could share stories about times in our own life when we have been held captive by something or an idea, or maybe a pandemic, and we were held captive in our homes, away from friends and family and the people that we love. And so we wait, right? Just like I imagine Matisse waited to get his dexterity back so that he could paint again, or to have his country back. And so I wonder, are you waiting for a break in this craziness of our current situation? Do you find yourself transitioning away from something that you were brilliantly achieving? There's been a loss in momentum. I see lots of hearts and likes flying. I take it that you all can relate to this. And it makes me wonder then, when Matisse first heard the word cancer, if he even cursed the day that he started painting, when he lost what he was able to give to the world so much. What torture to leave behind one greatest offering. And so look at this piece of art. Matisse did this in 1953, just before his death. And obviously, like I said, it's not a painting. While laying in bed, the fragile artist picked up a pair of scissors, and he did something that he watched his mother do when he was a child, because she worked at a textile mill, and she was famous actually for cutting fine silk. So Matisse followed suit, and he started cutting. And he cut out twisty, curvy shapes, and with scissors and this new art form, he touched with magnificent color, and he launched into what he championed as his second life. By the time of his cancer's remission, the scissors were a new extension of his arms. And so upon entering his home, visitors would see in his studio an underwater world with blue mermaids and parakeets. They would see blue characters dancing on the walls that he had pinned up in his dining room, or blooming to new growth with gardens in his bedroom. Matisse's cutting work captivated even the most novice of critics. And so this is the sheaf in English, and it's a bundle of cereal grains just after the harvest. So imagine long stalks of barley or wheat, and they're tied at the base and propped up against a barn wall. And do you see how with just the right placement of each piece of green, Matisse opens us to our expanding vision? Our eyes start in the middle with the green, and then they quickly move to the warmer colors of the orange and red, and then out to the end of the tendrils with the blue, and then the black at the tips. The sheath of grain expands and rises from the ground, and it blossoms into a world beyond itself. Can you see that movement in that context of this cutout? The original is 8 feet tall and 12 feet long. To stand in front of it, you feel dwarfed by the vitality of each curve as it stretches along the canvas. And you have to step close to feel the warmth, and then you have to step back to feel the expansiveness of the bloom. And so there are so many ways to dance around this piece of art as it comes alive for you. And again, it was a work that was crafted by an artist which was forced to find new perspectives in life. Matisse explains about this particular cutout. It's not enough to place colors, however beautiful, one beside the other. Colors must also react on one another. Otherwise, you have cacophony. And isn't that what it feels like to be trapped right now in our homes with our social distancing or draconian words from so many of our politicians? It's a cacophony in and on our souls. And right, thank goodness for our governor who is offering words of compassion and sense. Matisse says it's not enough to have one bright color or shape, though it's still stunning. The sheaf is a bundle that spreads wide. The ability to embrace new life and hope happens. Our outlook changes. When the colors play off of each other, and when we take a step back to catch our breath and see the magnificence that comes from pain, we're set free. Both Matisse's pain and the disciples as they grieved Jesus' death, this resurrection. Together, Matisse and Jesus and the disciples encourage us to find a new path to life. It does not come by ignoring pain or sorrow or unwanted transition of our present condition. But like the colors blending together, we are invited to imagine a space beyond conflict, where beauty still exists, where the potential for healing and peace become available to us. So in this way, the resurrection event is up to us to experience it. Just like it was up to Matisse to pick up his scissors, just like it is up to us to pause, to consider works of art, to see the beauty that is on display in our very lives. We must together, as a people of God, take a step back so that we can really see the vitality in which we are living. We must take a step back from our narrow ideas of life and death, or right and wrong, and we must courageously pick up a pair of scissors like Matisse. And then we'll see that when the colors fit together, and when our eyes are opened and we realize that Jesus is alive, we can ask the question, what is it really that we see? Who do we see? How do we see? For then that is it. That's the moment of resurrection. The fresh insight, the new awareness, a bigger God and a stronger love, new life, a second chance at life, reunion with friends and family, healing for all of God's children. Friends, may we be a resurrection people this Easter season, trusting in the abiding love of God, a love that cradles the entire cosmos and yet speaks to each of us with a still small voice. Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. Have a wonderful, wonderful Easter week.